So I am excited to be here today to talk to you all about specifically sharing PAYS information on social media. So as Sophia said, this is your opportunity to collect information on everything related to PAYS. And today we're going to specifically talk about social media and how we can use not only the data, but how we can not only put social media, use social media to spread data information out about PAYS, but also this is a great opportunity for us to talk to parents, to recruit school districts. So this is a great tool that we can use and that I've used in the past, and that's why I'm here today, because I do have a lot of experience using social media to engage folks with PAYS. So before we get into it, I do want to start by welcoming our panelists as well. We do have a few folks here today, so thank you for being here. Also, thank you, Jeff from Penn State's EPIS for being here. He is a PAYS expert as well, so we're glad that he's always here to offer his input and add to the conversation. So thank you, Jeff. Thank you, Elise. Thank you, Dr. Baker, and thank you, Sophia, for being here. And then we do have a new guest with us today, which she will get an introduction in a bit, and that's Jamie Zucker. So thank you all for being here. So before we get started into the meat of the webinar today, we want you all to log into Penn State's, EPIS Penn State, our Facebook page, and go ahead and leave a comment on the most recent post that asks the question about where you share your PAYS information. So we want to know, you can put, Facebook, you can put your agency Facebook page name, you can put your organization, your school district, whatever, but if you can put a handle in there, that's bonus points. We'd love for you to go ahead and comment and add your agency, your organization, your school district's handle in there. So I'm going to give you about 30 seconds to a minute to do that. So we'll take a quick pause. Nothing like 5 minutes in and we're already taking a break, right?
I already see we got our first comment.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you. So again, share your handle, share your organization, go ahead, your organization's Facebook page, however you want to do it. If you use some other type of social media, you can throw that on there too, other than Facebook. We just want to know how folks are getting information out there, what tool they're using specifically. And thank you for those who have participated. And I'll take this opportunity also to remind everyone, if you're just joining us, to go ahead and put your name and email address in the chat box so that we can collect for attendance. All right, so now let's move on. So a quick introduction of myself. My name is Lee Winterhalter. I'm the Prevention Supervisor for Fayette County Drug and Alcohol Commission. I've been a prevention specialist for 5.5 years now. I've been doing, since day one, I've been doing work with PAYS, and it is something that I feel very passionately about. I love working with PAYS. I love working with schools on everything related to PAYS, from recruitment to data analysis, everything in between. So it is something that I feel very passionately about. I'm happy to be here today to talk about social media and how I've used social media, and sort of some tips and tricks on how you can use social media to share data, recruit school districts, communicate with stakeholders, and a whole lot more, I hope. So I'm going to kick it over to Jamie Zucker. She's going to introduce herself, if you don't mind, Jamie, and tell us a little bit about yourself and your experience.
Absolutely. Hi, everyone. Nice to meet all of you. Thanks for having me. Again, my name is Jamie Zucker, and I have a company called Sugar Lane Graphics. I have about 22 years of graphic design experience, and I'm a communications specialist. So I really support with branding and marketing and communications, and I really like to take deeper dives and support all different types of companies and public service entities, and really figure out, their why, and help them with their communications, and really figure out how to connect all of the dots, and really figure out the best way to really engage and support with retention, and help with some of the goals and strategies that they're really trying to figure out the solutions, and really meet everyone where they are. And that's really my favorite thing to do, is really figure out the best way to figure out the tools that they need, and figure out who's using them, and communicate the best communication ways to get their information out to everybody. So I'm going to support Lee with some of those tips and tools today, and hopefully we can answer some of the questions for you. Thanks.
Thanks, Jamie. And
Sure.
Jamie and I have been working very closely. We worked on the PAYS user guide, so we were excited to have done that for everyone to use out in the field. And we have done some social media stuff as well together. So that's why we invited her to be here today, because she is truly an expert, and everything she does is amazing. And she has a great knowledge of why we should do this and why we should do that and why we shouldn't do this or do that. So I'm very, very excited to have her here with me today. So thanks, Jamie, for being here.
Yeah.
So the next thing is we're going to kick it off with a poll. So before we get into some tips and tools, we're going to kick it off with a poll. So Sophia, if you want to launch that poll for us, we want to know what have you used to showcase PAYS data? So your options are, have you used infographics? That would be, any type of image that highlights data or highlights some sort of a recruitment request or something like that. Email, have you used just old-fashioned email? Have you used videos through social media? So this is not just all social media, this is digital, all digital stuff. So have you used email? Have you used video and shared that through social media, or maybe a YouTube channel? Have you done an e-newsletter or a newsletter or some other digital platform, or you haven't used any digital platform maybe? And that's okay. So that's why we're glad you're here. So hopefully we can change that and encourage you, give you the resources you need so that you feel comfortable, a little more comfortable using these platforms. So give you all a second. And then Sophia, whenever we're at a good place, I'll ask you to share the results. Can we do that? So we can sort of look at it and see. Great, thank you. So lots of folks using infographics, email, a couple video, that's good. So 40% have not used any digital platform, which is okay. And some of you have said that 3 people said that you've used some other digital platform. We would love to hear what that digital platform is, because maybe it's something that we're not using, or maybe it's something that we want to use. So if you would share that in the chat, please, please, please do that. Be specific as possible. We would love to explore those options as well. So thank you all for participating in that poll. I really appreciate it. This is going to help us sort of gather an idea of where everyone is, what sort of headspace you're all in, and how we can make this webinar really the most impactful for you. So what I really wanted to do today was I really wanted to engage all of you in this idea of sharing data, sharing information about PAYS, and with your stakeholders. And what I wanted to do is I wanted to explore 3 different methods that I personally have used and that Jamie is supporting in some way in other fields, or as it relates to the PAYS. So we wanted to really talk about this because her expertise is in social media, and we wanted to really give you these ideas, these tips, so you can better utilize these tools. So what I will start with is I've sort of broken it down for everyone into 3 different categories. And since most of you have participated have done something in social media using an infographic, I am going to start with the infographic. So the infographic is not what we're used to when we're thinking about traditional media, right? When you're thinking about social media and you're thinking about the infographic, it's a totally different animal. The social media or the traditional media infographic is an 8.5 by 11. Maybe sometimes it's a little bit longer. It's got a lot of stuff on it. It starts by lining up, a little bit of base about the subject that you're about to learn about. And then each piece is sort of broken down, and there's graphs and there's charts, but there's also images, and it's really consumable, right? It's this a lot of information that's pretty consumable. So that's traditional media, like a flyer or cardstock paper. But what we're shifting to now is this infographic on social media. And this infographic on social media is going to look a little bit different. It's not going to be all that information at once. It's going to be snippets, right? It's going to be a piece, something small, something consumable, because there's no way that the audience that you're trying to engage with on social media is going to stop for long enough to read an entire infographic in the traditional sense. So that's why it's important to keep it small, to keep it concise. And this is something that we can start as more of a series. This is a great way that you can engage folks and say, here's a piece of data, and then maybe a couple days later, here's another piece of data, and you're continuing this sort of campaign, if you will, with this themed infographic style that you're sending out. So a couple things that you might want to consider if going this route would be that you want it to be attractive. We've got some tips for you as it relates to tools to use later in the webinar. But you want this to be really grab someone's attention. So what you can do for consistency's sake, though, is in the body of your post, you can say, this is a series, this is a campaign that follows along whatever subject that you're trying to talk about. So it could be PAYS, or it could be something else related to some other prevention effort, and that's cool too. So you want to but what you want to do is in the body of the post is you want to say something about this is a series that follows, PAYS data from 2021 or whatever it is, the topic that you're talking about. So I'm going to kick it over to Jamie if she has anything to add about that.
Absolutely. And I will keep it very simple. And because we all know less is more, think of it almost as you're driving down the highway and you need to read something in a very fast, quick moment, that less is more, as people are almost driving by, that you don't want to get in a car accident and you just want to read something in a quick and simple way. So think of it as the story, the message, the takeaway, and then what is that call to action? You always want to have a call to action most of the time, but something basically on the simpler side, because you don't want it to be too much of a heavy lift, because you want to keep someone engaged. And a lot of times, just to support with some of, the specialties that I love to share, a lot of times people put too many words and too much information. And as we know, the word algorithms, we know that with all of our social media pages and technologies and platforms, that if we put too many words on one of the posts, not the actual message of the post, but the actual infographic, it will get held up, and your audiences won't receive it either. So again, less is more. You can always put it in the body of the message. And at the end of the day, we want everyone to see the stories and the messages, but we want everyone to go to that last final destination, which would want to be your website. So those are some of those quick little tips that I always love to share.
Thanks, Jamie.
Sure.
And so when you're sharing this specific to PAYS data, something else that you're going to want to consider is that, because if you are doing a series, if you're highlighting maybe a stream of information that you've identified as something that's important for folks to see, stakeholders, parents, school districts, anyone, if you've identified something that is important for them to see and you want it to be set up in this consumable way, but you're doing it through this series, something that you might want to also consider is the fact that you want this post to stand alone. So even though it is part of a bigger series and it's following this identified identified opportunities that folks want to focus on in your county or your community, your school district. Even though they've identified this as a series, it should stand alone on its own as well. So it should be impactful all by itself and not dependent on other pieces of information. Jamie, one other thing I wanted you to talk about too with the group was hashtagging. So if you could review that a bit, thank you.
Absolutely. So hashtagging is great. Hashtag is the actual technical term is called metadata. And that actually is a source code that you can pull into any Google or Bing search. And that makes it traceable and something that can be transcribed and it can be found anywhere. So what that does is it almost categorizes your information and that way it can be found. So it makes all of your effort worth it. So putting it into your body copy in your posts really helps things that that can be tracked, and it makes it part of the campaign. So putting some things that are relevant with your hashtags are really smart. It makes it helpful to find, and then people will start looking for it. And what you can do is you can do a little bit of a quick search. They have hashtag helpers, and then you can put some of the top trending hashtags that help with your campaign. So that way people who are sort of novices are a little bit better with the hashtagging, they'll be able to find some of this content a little bit faster. And that's really what you do. And then at the end of the day, the best part of it is that the metadata will boost your search engine optimization, which is that SEO that we hear about also, and that boosts your website pages. So when people want to find your website, they will and learn more about PAYS, that the PAYS website will pop up more frequently in all of our searches. And then again, what we really want too is that PAYS will be recognized more, and then hopefully, we'll get more recognition. And that's really what we want. That's the whole goal of this, is to keep getting more recognition with PAYS, and it will start, the algorithms will start popping up more. And so that's really what it does. It gains more and more traction. So the more shares, the more likes, the more all of this that we keep doing, all of it as a whole will help with all of that. So it starts to build that picture, if that makes sense, that it all helps as the whole.
That does. Thank you. Thank you,
Sure.
Jamie, for sharing. That does help. And, that's really what we want we want to drive engagement. We want more people to see this information, to see the information that we're sharing, whether it be about PAYS, prevention, universal prevention, or whatever it is. We want as many people to be engaged. And that's how you're going to do that, through creating engaging posts, but also hashtagging properly and really following through with that. So thank you so much for sharing, Jamie. The next thing that I wanted to do is I wanted to show a couple examples of some infographics. Now, the one that I have here, it's from my organization. This was something that Ashley, our operations specialist, had created. This was not related to PAYS, but related to a series of different posts that were out all to engage parents on the dangers of underage drinking, and to really get the message out about parents who host lose the most, that messaging campaign. So she tied that with some, and she did a really great job tying that with some information for parents to digest. And of course, she cited it on here, but this again makes sense by itself, right? This is information that we want parents to know. We want parents to see. It's engaging. It's not overwhelming. And it was still part of a bigger series that dropped at the beginning of the school year when football season was really, at a height. So I wanted to share that with the group because I thought that was something that was really an awesome example of an infographic. And then Jamie, so can you tell us a little bit about what you've created here? And you and I worked together a little bit on this social media campaign that went out related to the dropping of the PAYS guide. So
Sure.
so in that, can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. So these 3 graphics were part of the PAYS campaign. So we actually built a calendar. So we knew as we were going along which one would drop. So that was very helpful. If we had counterparts that we wanted to support when they knew these were coming out, they were, you know, apprised as to when these were going to be messaged. So each one went along as each of the chapters were going out. So that way, when the guide came out, and hopefully you've all seen it and seen the updates that have gone through. So each one talks about all of the different chapters. It's talks about it. It actually looks like all of the colors. It's the branding. So you can really see as you go through the guide how it relates back to analyzing and to learn more. And it's more of like the campaigning of, you know, how each of the guide pages relates to each of the different graphics that goes out from week to week and all of the messaging that goes through. So, you know, depending on which social media platform it was used on, we used a square. If it was on for Instagram, and then if it was for Facebook, we used, you know, something that was a little bit of, you know, that specific size. So we were able to really campaign out the size and the colors and the actual messaging to go along with each one of those platforms.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, so now we are going to move on to our next section, and that is all about videos. And according to the poll, not a ton of you are using videos, and that's okay. We use videos to get information out about the PAYS guide, and we've done that for the last year or so. We've done quick videos to go along with each section of the PAYS guide, and in the hopes that folks can see that and utilize that in conjunction with the PAYS guide. But it's a great opportunity to share information out on social media as well. So I'm hoping that some of you have seen our videos as it relates to the PAYS guide, but there were a few that we had posted to engage legislators and maybe some other stakeholders in our state on the PAYS. But what I wanted to talk to you all about too today was how you can utilize video in a bunch of different ways. So Jamie, what do you think makes a great video? Like, why is using a video, not what does it make it great, but what is great about a video? Why are videos so impactful? Why do I stop scrolling when I see videos on my own social media? Why is that a thing?
Sure. So I'm going to go a little rogue real fast and quickly, if everyone could just show with their icon hands, how many of you watch videos here? I'm totally guilty. I watch it all the time. Okay. If you can put your hands down real fast. How many of you watch videos without sound? Okay. So that's a great example. You know, videos are great because when you use video, you have the opportunity to use closed captioning and you can transcribe that content. And so when we use the video with words and you can transcribe it, that again goes back to the metadata that I was talking about, the hashtagging, the metadata, and all of that content can be transcribed and put into almost a script. So that content becomes words out into the metaverse of the internet, right? And so that content gets found eventually. If you go to google.com and you type in, you know, PAYS or, you know, something that has to do with prevention or youth support, you know, anything that you're interested in, you'll be able to find videos on that. So video is very important right now. We all are watching it, whether it's with sound. Closed captioning is great. It translates it for us. So there are many great features that come along with video. They do not have to be long. They're more supportive than actual photography right now. It takes 2 seconds to, you know, really film something quick and simple. Everyone has a nice device that's handheld right now, so we don't need super high quality technology to film things anymore either. We have easy editing things that are right on our laptops right now too. So some of that stuff, you know, if we do want something super high end, we obviously have to, you know, work with the specialists and experts for that. But just to get some of these messages out, we definitely can work with, you know, some of these other technologies. But working with video is something that is really great to get some of these messages out. And, you know, at the end of the day, getting that content is really about supporting PAYS and, you know, supporting with possibly getting, you know, better legislation to get that support and the funding. And that really is, at the end of the day, what all of this is about. And so having it on social media and having it on YouTube, directing everything back to the website, back to all those pages, making it shareable. It's all of those things combined into one. So, you know, all of that in a nutshell is really what is so important. And it can, you know, just having it all shareable is really something that is important with, you know, having that video. Hopefully that answered your question, Lee.
It did. And, you know, I'm glad you mentioned funding as well, because one of the tips that I always give as it relates to getting funding, and this directly connects to the PAYS, is around engaging some high-level folks in your community to make a video for you. Someone who's familiar with the PAYS, someone who is involved with your coalition, an elected official, the director of your local local organization, like Children and Youth Services, something like that. Engage them in that and have either them talk about what they think is valuable in PAYS for 30 seconds, or another option is create some sort of a simple one-sentence message that you have multiple high-level people saying the same thing. You know, I support PAYS, or whatever that clever thing is that you have them saying. You film that, have them film it separately and sort of splice that all together. And then you've got a really great commercial, essentially, that's going to drive folks to talk about the PAYS, which is going to lead to funding and all of those things for your universal prevention programs. Now, one other thing I'll say as it relates to videos is my experience in sharing paid advertisement through Facebook with videos versus a static image. Videos increase engagement by double. There's, you know, it's an incredible difference by spending $50 on a video paid ad versus a static paid ad. It's very beneficial. More folks are going to see your video because it is something that people are looking for, people are looking at, people are stopping, even if they're not listening to it, which is why creating your video in a way that could work both ways is great. So that's an important message to know, is that it's a great way to get more people to like your page, follow your page, and engage with your posts. So one other real quick tip that I wanted to give, and this isn't just related to videos, but this is really could be related to videos or could be related to anything you're posting on social media, is what if you get a negative Nancy, right? What if you get some scrutiny? Well, if it's involving PAYS, we want to be there to support you in that. So definitely reach out to us if you have any questions from people in your communities who want to know, well, why do you ask this, or why do you ask this, that, or you know, is this about the validity of the survey? Any questions like that, we want you to know that you can reach out to EPIS and get support in that way. So I'm putting Jeff on the spot, and he doesn't have to say anything if he doesn't want to, but Jeff Hogan is an amazing resource as it relates to how to manage those tough questions as it relates to PAYS. And of course, Phyllis, she's not here with us today, but she's another great resource. So I wanted to put that out there into the universe, that can happen, and it's good to know how you can handle that if it pops up. So the last tip that I have is on creating posts, and this is similar to an infographic, but this one we're going to call the Did You Know post. PAYS essentially is built for this type of a post because there's so much data within the PAYS that you can utilize a Did You Know post. And by Did You Know post, I mean, did you know that 25% of youth are da 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 da? So that is really a great way to engage your audience, asking them a question. Sometimes you can really get people to comment on things and encourage them to, you know, did you know? Tell us about it. In your post, each post. So another thing that would be good is they call them trivia posts. Like, what do you think is the blah, blah, blah percentage of students who use vaping in our community? And then that could generate comments and really help you to engage your audience. Now, the example that I have up on your screen now, this was actually a card. So, you know, here we are tying back traditional media and social media. I did do this as a card, but I also did it as a social media post without the QR code. So this was another question post, right? It's not a did you know post, but it's a question post. Are you registered for PAYS? We wanted to know if the school districts were registered for PAYS. And this is what we sent out to them with a little snippet of some information and, you know, deadline information on there. So everything was right there. It was asking a question. I'm always somebody who's always like, is there a question? I got to answer it, right? So that's how I feel like this is a type of post that's really built for people like me, who always wants to, you know, put my answer out there, put my input in there and say something. So I think that I just wanted to mention that as something that is a third great way to share information about the PAYS, but also drive engagement. The last thing that I did want to talk about is as it relates to limited resources. So I understand that we all might be operating on a shoestring budget, and that's okay. So I did want to take a minute and just go over a few things that you might not be considering as it relates to how you can really amp up your social media game, essentially. How can you really make your social media, your agency, your organizations, your school district's social media really great? Some of the things that I've done in the past, now there is so the video making software that I use is relatively inexpensive, and I use WeVideo, but there are a ton of different things out there, different options out there for making videos. But what if your budget is zero, right? So if you've got a budget of zero, some other great tips that I just wanted to give you all were local media classes within your middle school, elementary school, or even college and university classes that have media. Those are great places to engage youth or young people, young adults, to help you make videos or even make infographics or make anything related to social media, because they are the experts. And it's going to be $0 probably. And this is another way to tie in helping youth know more about PAYS. So PAYS youth engagement is a huge piece of the PAYS guide. And I think that this would be another great way to sort of tie those two things together, where you're utilizing them to help you to get the information out there about PAYS, but you're also educating them on PAYS as well in the meantime. The other thing that I wanted to mention was, are you using your coalition? Coalitions, prevention coalitions are made up of a variety of different sectors. Media might be one of the folks that are represented on your local coalition. Are you engaging with them? Are you looking to them for some guidance and some support as it relates to what to post, when to post it, how to post it, all of those things? So utilize those graphic designers, those digital marketers that are already engaged in prevention work and out looking to help in any way possible. So Jamie, can you tell us the group a little bit about Google Forms? And I know you had a couple other things that you wanted to share that were free or low cost.
Sure. So Google Forms is great. You have Google Drive, so you have slides, which is their version of PowerPoint and all of their documents that you can use, and they have access to all of the free photos. So you can pull things in, have really nice presentations. But then there is one program that I have been using with a lot of my clients. It's Canva. It is a free program up until limited resources, where you have all of these pre-designed templates that you can use, and you have everything from all of your social media graphics. You have the squares, you have everything from logos, and you have flyers, presentations, posters, you have email banners, anything that you can possibly think of. Then you can preload all of your brand colors, pull in your logos and any of your graphics and photos as well. And it's really great. You can kind of set up a suite in there and have all of your consistency, and it really looks nice and it looks professional. So it's very simple to use, and you can pay for it. It's very minimal, but there is a whole suite that is free. And I use that all the time, and I think it's a great tool, and I suggest a lot of my clients to use it. I've been using it for a very long time with them, and I, you know, as a graphic designer, I do not shy away from it for them. It's a great resource. And one thing too, Lee, that we can mention too is to actually use some of your contacts. If you create content for them and hand deliver it to them, they'll post it on your behalf. If you're writing it and designing it and saying, here's a whole package, if you just share this or add it to your content pages and just post it for us, they'll do it. If you are saying, hey, could you just send something out for us? They're not going to want to write it. But if you are developing it and asking them to be a counterpart for you, they'll do it on your behalf if you're doing the legwork for them, and they'll be happy to. And you can say, hey, you know, why don't you send me when you're doing stuff and we'll do it together. So there are lots of, you know, constituents who will support you with that, and you kind of trade back and forth when you can do all of that, and you'll see a lot of engagement and traction that way. And that's really how you can build your network to really, you know, engage with all of your constituents that way.
Yeah, that's a great point. And actually, I've used media toolkits where I have, you know, said exactly what I want to say in the post, and exactly the images that I want to be used. And then I will send that out to my coalition members and ask for their organizations and agencies to share on our behalf, like you're saying. So, you know, this message is not just coming from, you know, we have a community, our coalition is a Communities That Care coalition, and we have this message coming out not just from Fayette County Drug and Alcohol Commission, but the same message, the consistent message about Communities That Care is also coming from the Behavioral Health Organization, Children and Youth Services, the Chamber. So there's a lot of great opportunity to partner and to create this toolkit. And it sounds way fancier than it actually is. It's literally a Word document that says, you know, here's what you put in the content of the post. Here's where we want, here's the hashtags if you have any hashtags. Here's where you can find the images that we want you to use. It is just like a digital version of a Word document, essentially. So yeah.
And then and two more things too, I forgot to mention that are free as well. If you find that when you're sending out emails that there's this thing called GDPR, and it's basically spam. When you send emails out, there are free handlers. MailChimp and Constant Contact are free email senders that you can use for e-newsletters. And they're really great if you do want to send out mass emails. I think it goes up to about, 500 email contacts. But it's a great way to see who's using it, who's opening it, the click rate. It's very intuitive. It's simple, it's easy, and it's free. There are so many complimentary websites that you can use for all of these tools. And then there's also a website called Unsplash, where it's a whole library of photography that you could use, really nice high resolution photography that you can use for your posts. And you can use it with e-newsletter website, and you can also use it with Canva too, which sometimes, you know, you have to kind of find stuff to use with your other materials, but Unsplash is really great because it's nice high resolution photography. So just a couple more things to throw in there.
No, that's great. Thank you.
Sure.
And then one last thing I wanted to say, circling back to Canva, was there is a free version, but if you are a nonprofit, you can get the upgraded version for free too. There's some steps that you have to take to do that, but it's relatively simple. And then you have access to so much in the pro version of Canva. So just another quick tip.
Yep.
So,
and can I just add one more thing? And then the best part about all of these things, we would not be promoting them. They have wonderful video tutorials for every single instance if you have a question about it. So I just wanted to share that one last thing. So we're not leaving you high and dry with saying, hey, use this tool, and now you're on your own. They have the easiest tutorials to learn how to use all of their resources. So that's all I want to share.
thank you, Jamie. Well, so since we talked about questions, now we're to the point where we are ready to answer your questions if you have any. So I have not looked at the chat, so I don't know if Sophia, you or Jeff, if you all have been, if there's any questions in the chat for us, but we would be happy to chat about those now.
Awesome. Yeah, I didn't see any additional questions come in. We do have 2 hands raised. I don't know if that was from the previous activity, but Joelle and Angie, I don't know if you have a question. And again, feel free to use the chat box or the Q&A. Oh, it looks like Angie put her hand down. I do have one question for you guys. How do you know what hashtag to use? Like, do you guys have any recommendations for hashtagging, how to best use them, things like that?
I'm going to kick that to Jamie.
So definitely keep the hashtag relevant with the content that it's connected to, but definitely research what's trending, because you want it to be things that are relevant in the world at that point too. So what is being found, I guess, through SEO searches, so that it's being populated in like through other searches, if that makes sense. So if you go to, you know, if everyone is like, the whole world is talking about this one popcorn, and you are, you know, try to find like what that twist is and how it works with you, but it has to be relevant and make sense. So there are websites that you can go to that support with hashtag finders. So you can just kind of scour what some of those are. Very, very easy things like that though, but just make it relevant.
So Jamie, what about length? I always ask myself that question, is can you make a hashtag too long? Because I've seen some that are just really long.
I always say less is more, short and simple. Think of the billboard concept. And then, you know, I actually do want to just kind of go back to the very beginning of the presentation. I know some of you were saying that you might not be on social media, you might not be using technology. And the main, you know, concept of this whole presentation is to really focus on meeting everyone where they are and communicating and trying to share information. And so even if you're not on social media, your audience is. And so the best thing to do is really try to figure out whether you're on social media or like social media, trying to figure out the best balance and figure out, you know, what your comfort level is, and figuring out how to really communicate with your audience and constituents and messaging to them. So I always say, whether you like social media or not, trying to communicate with everyone about what we're all passionate about and what we're trying to achieve here is really what our goal is. And so it really isn't going anywhere. And so we have to find the best the best medium, no pun intended. So, whether, everyone always says, well, which is better? Is it Twitter? Is it Facebook? Everyone is on every different platform at this time. So my best philosophy is that we'll do a piecemeal and a snail trail. And at the end of the day, we always want everyone to go back to the landing page on your website. And that is going to really get everyone all of the information, because they're getting little bits and clips and snippets of everything. But we want everyone to get that full information. And then once they're on that website, they're going to find all of the information, hopefully stay there, learn something, and then get that full knowledge of everything that they really need to know.
Thank you, Jamie.
Sure.
I will also say I was looking through the chat, and the video making software that I use is WeVideo. That is correct, Sophia. So thank you for responding to that. And then Sophia did put a bunch of links in the chat too, to some of the other things that we had mentioned as well. So it doesn't seem like anyone has any other questions. Does the panel have any other questions for us? And Jeff, I saw your hashtag. I think the one you sent me is too long. I think it's too long.
That was going to be my question. How did you know what I was going to say, Lee?
Because I know you too well, Jeff.
It might get caught up in the algorithm.
You might.
Well, you guys did do an amazing job today, and I appreciated all the comments and the conversations that were happening in chat while you guys presented. I love our monthly get-togethers and all of the participation. Of course, Lee, I didn't want to interrupt earlier, but if anybody does have questions, please use that email address. They come to Elise and I, and we will do our best to help you out. If there are specific PACE questions, let us know.
Thank you. So just to wrap up, I did want to remind everyone that we are looking for you. We want you to be able to share some of your experiences with social media or traditional media, because next month we will be talking about traditional media on the first Wednesdays at 1 webinar. So we would love for you to communicate that to us. We can share it on your behalf, but we'd also love to hear from you too. So if you want to be highlighted on next month's call, please reach out to Elise, and we'll throw Elise's email in the chat for the group. So please, please, if you have anything you want to share, we would love for you to do that on our next December.
And it doesn't have to be something that, it's not a big stupendous thing. All of us right now are looking at sharing the information. How do we get it out there? And we all do, right? That's how everybody keeps their business. That's how we try to keep the community healthy and follow with our passion. So anything that you do, that you share, traditional media, social media, share it. And we will make sure that we share that with everyone. So that way somebody will say, that's a great idea, I'm going to do that. So nothing is off limits, please.
And I will say,
wait, sorry, Lee.
okay.
Jeff, I think your messages and mine are too. I can't put in the chat because they're only going to the host and panelists. So you're sharing my email, which is great, but it only went to the host and the panelists.
It is not letting us send it everybody.
It is not.
You're right.
So I tried to do that. So Sophia, if you could pop my email in there, that would be great, because for some reason we can only send messages via chat. That's okay. Yeah. Not a big deal. All right. Thank you. Sorry, Lee. Go ahead.
No, I just wanted to say too, to chime into what Elise was saying, was in my 12 years in corporate retail and my 5+ years in prevention, I have one of the biggest takeaways from people is that, oh, the biggest thing I've learned is when I hear someone share an example. So that's why we want you all. You're saying this in your evaluations at CPA, and you're saying this, that you want to hear from people in the field, and we want to be able to provide that information to you as well. So thank you, Elise, for that. A couple other things just to remind everyone that the PACE guide is live. It is on EPIS's website, so go check that out. Hopefully you're using it. If you're not and you plan to use it soon, let us know if you have any questions. We're here to support. Finally, we've got some upcoming webinars happening. December 7th will be traditional media. So that will be the one that we're hoping we get some great guest speakers for. We would love to hear you talk about social media or traditional media and your experience with those. on December 7th. But we will be doing a lot on traditional media at the next Wednesday webinar. And then in January, we will not have a webinar, but we will have a call to action. And Elise and I were talking beforehand that this call to action is just a teaser. It's going to be a bridge between spreading the word and our next theme, which is going to be engaging youth. So get ready for that. And we are excited to share that information with you in January. So we will take January off from the webinar, but you will still have work to do. So don't worry about that. We will give you homework. Finally, we've got the video library that I had mentioned before. This is something you could be sharing on your social medias as well, for people to engage with and see how to use the user guide. There's also some great videos on there about how to engage people through funding and really explain the pays a little bit better. So there's our contact information. And that's it. Thank you all so much. You are great. Awesome. And I appreciate your engagement today. And we will see you in December.